Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is ASFARINA binti Abdul Wahab and my metric number is S54577. So today I want to show you about how to create a contact diagram, data flow diagram and flow chart for Ashton Fleming case account payable process at SNS using Microsoft Visio. Okay, first of all, for question A, prepare a contact diagram to document account payable processing at SNS. But here a question, what is the contact diagram? So let me discuss it first. The highest level of DFD and we call it contact diagram. But wait, what is DFD? DFD is a short form for a data flow diagram. DFD is a graphically that will describe the flow of data within an organization. So, to prepare a contact diagram to document account payable processing at SNS, firstly, I will put a circle symbol first. At the middle of the sheet first. So here a question again, why I choose to use the circle symbol first. So the answer is circle symbols is a symbol that we call it as transformation process symbol. This symbol we use for the process that will transform data from input to output. So for this case at circle symbol, I name it as SNS account payable. To represent account payable process in contact diagram, we only have one transformation process that describes the entire process. That is why it's very high level. So next, I will put a square symbol on the left and the right of the sheet. So for this case, we use 4 square symbols to represent organizations or individuals that send or receive data used or produced by the system. This square symbol, we call it as a data sources and destination symbol. Then for this case, we have 3 data sources that I will put it on the top on the sheet on the left and right first, and one at the bottom. I will rename it as a purchasing, and then for the square I will rename it as receiving. So for the first square box, name it as purchasing because we got data from purchasing department. From purchasing, I will put an arrow. So arrow symbol we use to connect data sources or data destination with main process. So the arrow symbol I use to explain data flows and represent the flow of data between sources, destination, process and data stores. So the sources come from the purchasing department and then they forward the purchase order document to SNS account payable for process recorded the data. So next, I will put square symbol again as a data sources and name it as a receiving for represent receiving department, and then from receiving I put an arrow symbol again to represent the flow of receiving report between receiving sources to SNS account payable process. For the bottom of the sheet, I will put a square symbol again on the left and the right, but here have some difference between a square symbol at the top. Firstly, I put a square symbol that have 2 functions as a data sources and data destination, so I name it a window. It probably because from window the account payable clerk got and invoice document and record it to SNS account payable process, and then from data process SNS account payable that have been recorded by CLAD, and then forward all the document to Susan for send a payment and remittances advice to vendor. So, and the last one, I put a square symbol again for data destination management, which is to Susang. So from SNS account payable process that recorded by CLAD, CLAD will forward account payable report and part it at a data destination management Susang. Now, one thing to keep in mind, we need to remember that there are three sources and two data destination. When we create our net level of data flow diagram, we don't want to lose anybody, and we don't want to add anything. Alright, for B, prepare a level 0 data flow diagram of SNS account payable. The DFD show the detail of continuous contact diagram. First of all, I want to put a square symbol first that will show data sources. Then the first square, I will rename it as a window. And the second one is the purchasing, to represent purchasing sources department, and the last one is the receiving, to represent receiving sources department. Here I remind again, so we have three data sources that we bring out the same data sources as at a contact diagram that we have created before this. So for level 1.0, I put a circle symbol to represent main process at level 1.0 and rename it as a record payable. From data sources window send an invoice to the account payable SNS, and here I will put an arrow to connect data sources with the main process record payable. So an invoice that got from window, the account payment CLAD will process it at record payable. And then after CLAD have been done record process, CLAD will store the data at two data store, which is account payable and vendor invoice. So I will put a two symbol data store and name it as first account payable data store, to store all data about account payable that have been recorded at process level 1.0. And then secondly, I put symbol data store again and name it as vendor invoice. So the both symbol that I use is a symbol for data store. Now we go to 2.0 level process. So from purchasing department, the data store that we have been got, which purchase order document, it will be recorded by CLAD at process at CLAD and store purchase orders and receiving reports. So I will put an arrow again to connect purchasing data sources with main process at level 2.0, and of course purchasing department will send the purchase order document to a account payable CLAD for processing at a CLAD and store purchase order and receiving report. Next we go to data sources receiving. So from receiving, we put an error symbol again to connect receiving with the main process at 2.0 level process. So from these data sources, class will got receiving report to process it at main process level 2.0, and then after the collect and store purchase order and receiving report have been done, and then class will update all the process related with receiving report at receiving report data store. Receiving report, and then from all process related with purchase order, class will store at purchase order data store. Purchase order data store file. Main process level 3.0. First and foremost, of course, I should put a circle symbol against and name it a make payment process. For this process, Susan, as a management department, will review all of the data that have been stored by CLAD at process 1.0 and 2.0, which is account payable data store, vendor invoice data store, purchase order data store, and last but not least, receiving report data store. So all of this data store, Susan's will review and sign off the check to process it and make a payment. And then after Susan's make a payment, I will put a data store symbol to record check in all the data related with cash disbursement journal. So all the data related with cash disbursement journal will store at this data store. And then after make a payment process, Susan will send payment and remittation advice to data destinations, which is vendor. And then the clerk will store all the payment process at data store paid invoice. Lastly, we go to the last process for S&S account payable. At process level 4.0, class will prepare management report. So yes, I will put a circle symbol to represent the last process, which is prepare management reports. So from this process, class will forward account payable report to data destination management, which is Susan. Question C, required to prepare a document flowchart to document account payable processing at S&S. So first thing, for document flowchart S&S, I will rename a flowchart as a S&S account payable. It divided to three sections, which is account payable that involved by external entity and class. Account payable next is a controller, and then the owner or manager. So under section account payable, I will put three terminal symbol at the top that will indicate external party, which is from purchasing, from receiving, and then from window. So from external party purchasing, I will put a document symbol under purchasing, and then I will put a document symbol under receiving, and the last one I will put the document symbol for the window. So from external party purchasing, SNS account payable receive purchase order document, and then from a receiving department, SNS account payable receive a receiving report. So to connect between terminal and document, I will put an arrow to indicate document or processing flow. From both document, account payable clerks will file of paper document. So I will put a triangle for paper document file, purchase order, and receiving report. I will name is a paper A due to alphabetically files. We will connect the paper document file A from purchase order and receiving report with a mesh purchase order, receiving report, and invoice. So we use a trapezoid for manual operations symbol. So next we go to the I will put a document of 3 document that contribute that under process mesh purchase order, receiving report, and invoice. So firstly I will rename the document with purchase order, and the second document is a receiving report, and the third document is a vendor invoice. And the last process for this part is I will put a circle symbol, and I will rename it A because the circle symbol is a on-page connector. From vendor invoice document, we put a manual operation symbol as a process that lets record account payable, and then I will put a document symbol as a vendor invoice that lets send, and then after that I will put a triangle symbol as a symbol for paper document file, and then I will rename it as a document, and then I will connect the paper document file with mesh purchase order, receiving report, and invoice. So after that we go to the I will put the symbol for the journal or ledger that I will rename is a account payable ledger, and then I will put the symbol for manual operation that I will rename is as a prepare monthly account payable by the select. So after every month select prepare a account payable, and then I will put the symbol for the account payable report. So after that I will put the circle symbol for the one page connector, and then I will rename it as a D one page connector. So next I will continue to put a circle symbol as a on page connector, and I will rename it as a C on page connector, and then I will put a symbol for a document. So for this part that 4 document that will contribute, the first one is a purchase order, and the second one is the receiving report document, and the third one is a vendor invoice, and the last one is a check 2. And then I will put a triangle symbol and rename is a that represent a paper document file alphabetically. So let's go to the controller segment. So first of all, I will put a circle symbol that represent a on-page connector A, and then I will put the document symbol that contribute for this part 3 document. The first one is a purchase order document, and second one is a receiving report, and the third one is a vendor invoice. And then after that I will put a symbol for a manual operation. Then I will rename is a prepare vendor chats. And then after prepare vendor chat as a manual operation, I will put a symbol for a ledger original that I will rename is a cash disbursement journal. That's so after that I will put a symbol for a document. So for this part under the manual operation prepare vendor chats, that has 5 documents that will contribute. The first one is purchase order document, secondly is a receiving report, third vendor invoice, and fourth check 1, fifth is check 2. And then I will connect the manual operation to the document. And after that, the last one for this controller segment, I will put a circle symbol as a on page connector, and I will rename is a connector B. So yeah, now we go to the last section of the document flowchart. So for the sections is a section for owner or manager. So for this section, I will put a circle symbol first and rename is a B to represent a on page connector B. And then I will put a symbol for file document under on page connector B, that the document from the chats to the Ashton to review either the document is complete. So after that I will rename is a document 1 is a purchase order, document 2 is a receiving report, document 3 is a vendor invoice, document 4 is a check 1, and document 5 is a check 2. And then after that I will put a symbol for manual operations, and then I will rename is a review and sign checks. So this part is a process that Susan will receive as a management. So after that I will put a document symbol and rename it as check 1 that Susan pay to the vendor. And then I will put the terminal symbol for terminal N Then I will rename it to window, that the check will be given to the window. So from the manual operation review and sign check by the Susan has written again the document that have been forwarded by the chillets to Susan, and Susan written it again, and then that have 4 documents that contribute for this bug. The first one is I will put the one is the purchase order document. Second, receiving report. Third is a vendor invoice, and the last one is a check too. And then after that I will put a circle symbol, and rename is a on page connector C. And then I will put the circle symbol again, and then I will rename is a on page connector D. And then from the on page connector D, I will put the symbol for document account payable report that have been prepared by the chillets, and then it will be given to the Susan. And then I will put the manual operation symbol again as a review account payable report by the Susan. And then I will put a triangle symbol, and then I will name is a D paper document file, because the Susan will file this document after she review to the paper document by date.